the bingo book Chaos Era Introduction Edition, which means we get introduced to some notable forces such as the colorless queen, terrible stage design, horrible boss mechanics, lots of salt, dying, just a terrible time in general because the beginning of Chaos is not a good time. The Garland event stage, aka the Colorless Queen introduction, is the absolute worst way to begin an era, I'm gonna say personally. But don't worry, this is not the first Chaos fight. This is the first event Chaos fight. The very first Chaos was actually a Heretics that gave Cloud's EX Plus and Vincent's EX Plus. And yeah, that was terrible. I did not complete that. I just said, you know what? I'm gonna dodge it because it's not worth the time. Soon after, I got Fang's EX Plus from her banner because her Lost Chapter came up. That's why I started using her pretty often. And yeah, that was a mistake, especially against the Queen. She does not do good. What happens is, Fang's damage is completely limited due to a few factors. Number 1, the HP attack is awful. Number 2, skill 1's overflow is not the greatest. The next thing, skill 2 is very good, but if she does not have a sufficient amount of Brave, it's kinda useless. You can't really capitalize on the damage. Same thing for the EX. The EX needs multiple targets to actually reach the 99k, and even at that point, that's still not enough. If you look at Cloud, he can pop his EX, and that's easily over 100k, 99.9% of the time, versus Fang, who's out here struggling. So the question is, why on earth would you bring a strugglish character to this event? Well, that's all I had. I never had Cloud's EX weapon. But this time around, I am stacked. I'm actually prepared for this. I'm gonna blow it away. As soon as the event goes live, I'm telling you, give me about 30 minutes and that video is gonna be up and she's gonna be dead instantly. I'm not playing around. I've already been through this. I've died so many times on this stage. I've lost reset so many times due to cheap mechanics, shenanigans, and of course picking a character that I didn't know was going to be terrible for the boss fight at the time because you didn't know it was bad until you've already made the mistake. Fang is not by any means bad, she's just not good for this type of fight. She can still work, but that would require you to have another DPS and a really good support in order for that to work, or you can switch it up and have your support be somebody else. The thing is, it just depends. You have to balance things around her, which is kind of frustrating, especially with paralysis. Because she's already making it take long enough, and then you get paralyzed, and then the turn count, and then frustration builds, and performance just gets worse. Okay, one important thing about these Chaos fights. You got to keep your composure. It's very easy to just start doing worse than you've done previously due to frustration. It happens a lot, especially in FEOD. You could be doing super well and then be like, okay, how did I just kill myself? Focus on team compositions. Watch the enemy's Brave. Read the description for Chaos. Every single Chaos, always read the resistances, read the descriptions, read everything, because that's the most important thing that people overlook. You can go into a fight and be like, I got the team. Wait a minute, they're resisting this? Welp, GG. Thankfully, the Queen did not have any resistances because she was already cheap enough as it was, so I'm glad that they decided to not put anything on top of that. Basically, what the nail in the coffin was for me was I had this terrible experience which got fixed right after this event, ironically. What happened was I had two characters get hit with an AoE because one of them dodged the attack. The other two took the blunt of the damage, thus resulting in both of them getting killed. If that was split amongst 3 people, I would have survived. But hey, bad game mechanics, what are you gonna do? After 30 days passed, I came back with a vengeance. I brought the Muscle, aka Agrius, the FF Tactics legend, and we completely shut the Queen down. That's right, the event got extended for 30 days? because of a bug with Captain America's shield. I'm not sure what the specifics was, but it was something about the percentages not being accurate, which really did not bother mine since he was like 1-3 EX plus and he was doing fine. So it's safe to assume that, yeah, they know they messed up. So I'm pretty sure both of those factors contributed to the extension of the event. But I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen this time on Global, so yeah, you might want to be prepared. Garland obviously is good on his event. Cloud works wonders. Being that I came back 30 days afterwards, Agrius was able to completely wreck the boss with her own cheap mechanics, which is C65 guaranteed stun. And after that, things started to get a little better, but not 100%. Into the rules of EX Plus. On the weapons and the armor, essentially what you're gonna need is pages that you get from beating Cosmos, which can then be crafted into a book. After you use this book on your armor/weapon, it gets plussed up. Once it gets plussed up, ba-boom, you get the ingot/the brick, which is used to max limit break. I know, it's fun. You can finally stop using the same weapon in order to limit break, right? But another way to get the ingots is to get nuggets from clearing Chaos. After you clear Chaos, boom, you get 5. After you reach 20, boom, you get an ingot. Also, these things take a ton of orbs. With the introduction of the tier 5 orbs, it's oh so easy. They're kind of scarce on JP, they might do things differently for Global, hopefully, but that's just a rundown. What I like to do personally is get all the trash weapons I have stored up on top of my orbs and just use those. I don't always have time to farm up orbs. Even if you reach the max number of orbs, you're eventually gonna run out. So it's better to just use the weapons on the weapon you want to upgrade and do it that way. Afterwards, again, you pop the book, you get the ingot. After you get the ingot, you use it on your weapon, and booyah, it's maxed out. Oh, it just doesn't get maxed out. It gets better. The color of the weapon changes. It turns purple. The Super Saiyan God Aura. The transformation. A nice symbol of your hard work to be represented on the battlefield. Once again, they do take a lot of orbs, so again, keep up on your resources, and this should not be that difficult. Global will probably do a better job than JP, naturally, because it's been doing that. After you get your weapon maxed out, just look at it and be like, wow, I did a good job. Trust me, you don't have to max out all your weapons. I currently have like 75 EX weapons, and of the EX pluses that I have maxed out, it's probably like 30-ish, so you don't need everybody maxed out. You just have to pick and choose depending on what the person does and how you want to form your teams. Again, there's a lot of variables. It depends on team composition and what characters do, so I cannot give a definitive answer aside from it just depends. As a reward for your hard work, you are then granted with a sphere, which can be used on your characters. They range from the letters A to E. It can be Brave Up, Attack Up, Base Max Brave. It can basically be anything to enhance your stats / make battles easier, turn people into healers that aren't healers, as long as they have the proper slots. So essentially, it's extra customization and helps you punch through tanky bosses and get through bad situations in Chaos. Oh, don't worry, it only gets worse because we have to deal with the effect now. This is the boss of Alti's event. It's terrible. This thing loves to turn you to stone and has massive brave gain and brave reduction. It's a problem, a big one. This is one of those events that I did not complete. At the Chaos level, the boss was too much for me. I could not do it. It was a problem. I tried my hardest, but this thing is a problem. If you cannot shave it, you die. If you cannot burst through the waves / that stupid Cyclops with the red eye thing that loves to turn people to stone, yeah, you're not going to be able to complete this. At this point, I still had Fang, I had Agrias, and Cryle, the new addition to the team, but I'll get into that later. Pain, thankfully, is synergy. She definitely works on Cosmos and Chaos. But the other synergy characters we got is Squall plus Ulti. They both get EX+. Of the two that's better, obviously it's going to be Ulti. But Squall does work wonders on this stage because you do have to shave a lot. They love to target themselves and get that massive Brave gain, the Brave reduction, and then it becomes really hard to deal with that. That's 2 Chaos bosses at the same time that have around 50 to 60k max Brave while reducing your damage, which probably was not the best to begin with anyways because it's Chaos. That's a problem. The way to get around this is to use Ulti because she completely cheeses the fight. In fact, she cheeses just about every other Chaos, unless they're resisting magic. Because once you pop her EX, what happens is she gets a free turn and a free ability, which is great. That free ability comes in handy because you only have 4 of your skill 2 for a good reason. It shaves by a percentage and also does damage evenly. So you don't have to worry about that dreaded, I'm gonna turn you to stone, I'm gonna battery myself up, try to shave me. Even if they do, she can stop that. Because the getting turned to stone is really a big problem. And it hurts a lot. The funny thing is, I know what hurts more than any Chaos boss in the entire era, and that is going to be the backlog of EX weapons. Let me explain because there's some people that don't know what that is. Basically what happens is, since there is a lack of EX plus resources, and you get a bunch of EX weapons from pulling on banners, that means you start getting more EXs than you can actually EX plus, thus leading to an entire inventory full of useless EX weapons. That is JP's biggest issue currently. I think Global can solve that by implementing the medal co-ops that we have, which allows you to get medals every single day until the end of the month and it resets and whatnot. Use the rewards to get what you want. You want to get weapon tokens, you want to get tickets, you want to get SP potions. I don't know why you would waste that on that, but the real prize is the nuggets. I hope they implement that because that means you get an extra ingot within a month, which is great, versus getting absolutely nothing. What I'm getting at is the more resources you can get, the easier the Chaos events and the more approachable things are going to be now that there is an incentive to actually use the weapons rather than it sitting in your inventory. Like, wow, wouldn't that be great? But don't worry, I'm pretty sure Global is going to take care of that because they're good with that type of stuff. Unlike the Japanese server, which does not believe in the art of convenience. I mean, we don't even have an accept all button for crying out loud. On to the most anticipated character of the early Chaos era, and that's gonna have to be Ultimecia, followed by somebody that surprised me quite a bit because I got her by accident early Chaos, and that happens to be Cryle with the EX, who functions as an offensive battery. When I say offensive, I'm not kidding because her EX does damage. I know, she's actually putting out numbers, but it's very easy to not do that by doing a few things. Step 1, do not press skill 1. Step 2, have basically no Brave. The way that Kryle's EX functions is the more damage you do, the better the regeneration is going to be, because it takes 10% of the total damage that you output and then you recover that for 5 turns. The 5 turns thing, that's the crazy part about it, is it also recovers your Brave on the enemy's turn. So technically, you have a failsafe to not get broken. But that means it also burns very quickly. So a good way to play around that little problem is to make sure that you're popping the correct amount of skills. Pay attention to her skill 1 because it has high turn rate. That high turn rate is no joke. There have been times where I was about to die. I pressed it, got instant turn rate into her EX, and we just repeated the process over and over again, and we were back to safety. Also, since it happens every single action for the regeneration portion, popping C65 during that time is not smart, and I would not recommend it. You should probably do that beforehand. Her C65 actually gives the team max Brave Overflow, which is crazy good for this early in Chaos, which is when Leviathan drops. So keep that in mind if you want to use Kryle, because her EX is no joke. It's actually really good. Kryle is a good person to have, and her EX can put out a lot of damage. In terms of doing a lot of damage, we cannot leave out the ulti. At least for early Chaos, but afterwards it kinda balances out. But the important thing to know is that she plays around her EX. What you do is you spam skill 1 until you get the EX. Once you get the EX up, do not, I repeat, do not press an HP attack. The first skill you use after pressing the EX is free. Once she hits that EX, she's gonna get a free turn and a free skill. She gets so much momentum to the point where you can actually loop it back into her EX as soon as it goes down. The only thing about ulti that sucks is that she doesn't do a lot of damage. She's kind of like Vayne in a sense, where she just keeps going and going, so it looks like she's doing more, but she's actually not. Also, her skill 1 can be underwhelming at times, and she functions on the irritating stack mechanic that everybody's going to end up with in the Chaos era. The stacking mechanic can be kind of irritating, but it is a very powerful asset, and a certain character that gets their EX plus during the time of the Soul Cage, aka the Kuja, he knows all about that. But awkwardly enough, I didn't really see him much after that, because he has his moments. The thing about characters with elemental damage in the Chaos era is, if there's no way for that character to actually do damage because the boss is resisting that element, you kinda can't use him. I'm not saying he's bad, all I'm saying is you just gotta be wary of that. If a character's a bunch of elemental attacks, such as Vaughn, then they're gonna have some trouble, especially in FEOD and a majority of the Chaoses, because they love their resistances, especially with elements. During the exact same Soul Cage raid, Lilizet also gets her EX+, which I'm gonna say is very good for her, and she functions well as a debuffer. But she has the problem of having low attack, which her EX+ actually is an attack, so that can be a problem. But she's totally usable. In fact, everybody is. You just gotta find the right team setups, and you should be good to go. I can't stress that enough. Team compositions over everything. I'm probably gonna go for ulti and possibly Lilizet, but Kuja, I'm gonna have to pass on that one, cause I just don't want to deal with it. During this portion of the early Chaos era, we had some really nice introductions, such as Ishtola's EX+ and Captain Bosch von Ronsenberg being introduced to the game. Arc 2 Chapter 6, without a doubt, is my biggest Chaos highlight moment ever in the history of the game, because I used Fang, the character that sucked, everybody hated, and we destroyed the chapter's final boss with ease. because I made a team that blended so well together, which is a combination of a bunch of failures, obviously, as I've stated before, because Fang really sucked. But this time, she had a battle that she could fight because there's 3 targets. Now, remember what I said before about Fang going against multiple targets? She did maximum damage just about every single time. If the mannequins got any type of battery up, I would just break them with her EX, and that would be that. Eye Patch Boy would take a clean 99k and be completely shut down. This is what I meant by you have to pick the battles correctly for these characters and build around them. Now, if you look at this 3-on-3 setup, would it be smart to bring Cloud? I don't think so, because Cloud is not good with multiple targets. He's good with 1 target, maybe 2 at best. But 3, that's an absolute no-no. This right here is why I used Fang a lot, because I knew that she could do a lot. We just had to be in the right situation, which is why this team did so well. Now let's get into Y'shtola specifically. When she is 3 of 3, max limit broken, she starts with the EX on the first turn. This is going to be a recurring theme for a lot of different characters, because those are the ones that really need it. Another example is going to be Golbez, because we know how he struggles with his skills and whatnot, which will come a little bit towards the middle of the Chaos era. But that's just a rough example of how this is going to keep happening, and it's such a good thing. I think Kamari gets his on the first turn too after 3 of 3. Yes, he definitely does. Not trying to spoil stuff, but I'm just putting the groundwork out there that this is going to be a thing. The reason why the EX start exists in the first place is because the character needs it. Just to spoil something else, Yuna also starts with her summon at the start of the fight. No, she does not start with the attack, she starts with the summon. The reason behind me mentioning her this early is because she is one of those characters that historically wastes a bunch of time. So starting with EX or certain buffs / summons on turn 1 highly benefits a good portion of characters. I know for certain that I was benefiting from Y'shtola's EX a lot during the Bosch chaos, because that big, beefy, mouth open, consistent AoE HP attack spamming boss was a serious issue. The reason I was able to win the fight was, number 1, Y'shtola is the greatest. Number 2, Bosch is so good at taking AoE attacks. The way that he works is you press skill 1, which puts a target lock on the enemy, and also gives you a shield buff that reduces incoming HP damage by a lot, and also allows him to take all of the AoE HP attacks. So basically what you have is a glorified meat shield. But that doesn't mean that he can stay alive forever, which is where the second skill comes in. Popping skill 2 heals him by a lot. Also, his EX heals him by a lot while doing a good amount of damage for a tank, I'm gonna say, this early on. If those 2 fail you, you still have the C65, which heals you. You have 3 uses of those. So he has plenty of options to stay alive. To make things even better about him, if you get his passives, he can have up to 45% extra HP. But of course, being me, I was unable to achieve that, so there were a couple of close calls. By close calls, I mean almost getting one-shotted by the boss, but luckily, Bosch has last stand, so he didn't get killed. And with the crazy amount of heals I had on my team, getting back to full HP was no problem. We have Agrius healing per turn, we have Bosch who can heal himself with skills with C65. So what I'm getting at is I had multiple ways to keep Bosch nice and healthy, to keep my team from dying, so we didn't really have that much to worry about aside from killing the thing in time because it was really beefy. So Bosch can function as a good tank, but his damage output is not the greatest, I'm gonna say. As for the middle of Chaos, that's gonna have to wait till later because the era is humongous. But don't worry, once we get to that point, we're gonna have some titans, some familiar faces, we're gonna have some heavy hitters, all that good stuff. But until that time comes, do your best and try not to die.